This episode of our podcast is brought to you by Zealand Insurance. If you live in Ontario, Canada, and are looking for the best price and coverage for your Tesla, give Zealand a call at 1-855-385-4226 or visit their website at zealandinsurance.com/Tesla. Hello, everyone. It's time again for the Tesla Owners Podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Page. This episode is for August 2nd. I have to correct myself. Last week, of course, I misspoke. I said it was July 25th, or it was July 25th. I said June 25th. So, the people on YouTube are not ones to let me forget when I make a mistake. So I apologize for that. But we got a lot to talk about tonight. I just want to introduce my guests. I have Mr. Ian Pavelko. Gentlemen, how are you?
Good. How are you two gentlemen?
I'm very well. And, of course, joining us is President Camacho there, Eric Camacho in Florida. How are you doing, Frank?
Eric in 2020.
Hello, everybody, and thanks so much for your support. My candidacy is really important to me, and we're going to make sure that we do the best we can for the world.
Yeah, don't forget Gatorade. It's got what plants crave the most. If you haven't seen the movie Idiocracy. All right, well, we have lots to talk about. I'm going to let Eric take point on the very first topic today because it really relates to the upcoming version 10 of the firmware that's coming. Before we do that, I just want to give people a very quick history lesson because we've been watching this. So if you're new to the podcast, whatever, maybe you're not too sure what's been going on and so on and so forth. So we're actually coming up on the first anniversary of the last software release, which was version 9. That was released in the last week of August of last year, and that firmware was 2018.34. Now, in case you haven't noticed yet, Tesla names their firmwares based on the year of release, and the second digit represents the week that it was released. The last major update that we got in terms of visual changes, especially if you're new to this, maybe you got a Model 3, didn't know that there've been prior releases on the S and the X, was version 6 to 7. Now, version 6 of the software still had some skeuomorphisms in it. That's when they represent real-life objects in software that really doesn't have any business being there. Things like they were representing some parts of the instrument cluster bezel on the Model S in the center screen. Of course, they went away with that in version 7. So since then, they've been making a lot of visual changes and under the ground changes, or under the hood changes, I should be saying. But again, we've been hearing since last year that Tesla, or Elon was talking some more of the features that are coming in version 10. And here we are almost a year later, and looks like it's almost upon us. Now, Eric spent quite a bit of time. I'm still on vacation, but Eric spent quite a bit of time on Twitter a few days ago. I think it was around the 27th. Elon got on Twitter, as he's wont to do, and spat out a whole bunch of stuff. So Eric spent a tremendous amount of work putting Elon's Tweetstorm into a fantastic tweet thread. I'll put a link in the video in the podcast description. You guys can certainly follow along. But I'm going to turn it over to Eric and let him take point on this and give us, all of our viewers and listeners, the fill-in on exactly what went down.
Hey, thanks, bud. So as Trevor just mentioned, Elon really did have some fun on Saturday and sort of awoken a lot of people who were thinking it's the weekend. It should be pretty quiet. Not a lot of Tesla news breaking on a Saturday. Were we wrong? So there was a whole bunch of stuff that was tweeted out. And what I was starting to do was sort of keep a track of what was being responded by Elon. And then next thing you know, it was like a massive amount of content. So the easy thing to do is sort of take all of the responses, all the questions, sort of streamline them together, lump things that were very similar in conversation, and make it a very simple, kind of a readable thread. And that's what I tweeted out on Sunday. So if you've been retweeting it, you've seen it before, fantastic. If you haven't, this is sort of a basic rundown of what happened. I tried to put like topics together, like Tesla Arcade, version 10, etc. So I'll kind of recap that now as best as I can. So the first thing that Elon talked about was the Tesla Arcade, specifically on a game called Cuphead. That's a game that's going to be released in the Tesla Arcade sometime this month.
Now if you haven't seen Cuphead, it's amazing.
It's an amazing game, and it is something that a lot of folks have been like kind of nudging them to do. So it is something that's forthcoming. Again, we're now taping the show August 1st. This debuts August 2nd. So it is sometime this month that they're projecting to have it. But again, Elon time can certainly vary. But again, they're at least projecting an August debut. The game will run at 60 frames per second, and it will not require 4K resolution for it to run, which is really, really impressive. Relative to the Tesla Arcade, another game called Unity, porting it into the arcade is done. But what the team is trying to do is actually perfect how it works with game controllers. So we know, and I'll get to this in a little bit.
That's critical for Cuphead because you can't play it with the steering wheel.
Correct. So another game we know is in the cars now, Beach Buggy Racing 2, does support 2 remotes, which is now a new update. But that, again, is more games are going to be using remote options for control. Now, a really cool thing that I thought about this, and this kind of relates to Sentry Mode, and I know that we've talked in the past on the show about storage devices. Ian even mentioned a good recommendation that you can use for storage, high-capacity storage. But since local storage in the processor, in the computer, is limited, Tesla will allow additional game storage via USB. So that's going to be a very intriguing component coming out pretty soon, again, in the next month or so. Now, additional information for the Tesla Arcade. Chess is now available for those that have recent updates in their cars. You can actually now play chess. In fact, Tesla earlier today had a fun tweet exchange where the U.S. chess champion had played the chess game in the car. Unfortunately, the car was not victorious in this matchup, but it was at least fun to see that exchange going on. And then also forthcoming arcade games should be including Minecraft, which is fantastic for those kids who are really into Minecraft, as well as Roblox, Roblox. So that's actually forthcoming. Now, here's something that was sort of a question that even people like Trevor had asked, which is we've heard in the past before about the potential for owners to pay for either an MCU and LTE upgrade for access to these features. Now, Elon mentioned it in passing that owners actually could do that, but there was no expansion beyond that tweet to saying you can. So we don't have enough information yet. So if you are listening to the show and you're sort of curious, we ourselves still do not know as we're taping the show what that means, what the cost is, the timing of it. We just know that he says it can be done. Hopefully, we'll see more information coming down the pipeline.
I will mention one thing here. The LTE upgrade is something that Tesla's been doing for some time. So people that had previously older cars that only had the 3G can upgrade to the LTE modem. Anecdotally, I think it was around $500 to do that. I don't know if it's cheaper today. The MCU thing is something that I've been asking Tesla about for months, right. Based on what Elon had said last year. And of course, he's reiterating it again. The problem is the service centers have no clue about what's going on or how it's going about. So obviously, it's not in the system yet. So as soon as we know more, we'll let you know. Carry on. Sorry.
Sure. No, good information. So here's now where we start getting into version 10 conversation. So it wasn't alluded to just yet. This was sort of a standalone part of his tweets. So owners will soon be able to stream YouTube and Netflix when the car is in park. That's a really huge thing. So that's an infotainment. That's a nice term we'll use. Feature coming out pretty soon. The vehicles themselves offer an immersive cinematic experience because of the comfortable seats, the surround sound audio. So Elon kind of likened it to a drive-in movie experience. He said that's actually targeted for an August release, but it's no more than a few months away. So leading into that, he then added that once full self-driving is approved by regulators, Tesla will then allow the streaming of that content on YouTube and Netflix to be able to be played while the vehicles are in motion. Which again, when we talked about Model 3 and its initial design with the screen being horizontal versus vertical, that sort of was the mindset of having eventually displays be able to do that. Now, he did in fact indicate that some owners will need the premium connectivity package for those infotainment features. So if you don't have unlimited streaming options in your vehicles, you may actually be able to then pay for that package. So for those who do not know, if you were to purchase a car now, you do get the premium connectivity for the first year of your ownership for free. After that, you actually have to pay $100 a year to have it. So it's about $8, $9 a month to do it. But again, that's something that he says you may have to do that to use these services. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Streaming video is part of version 10. So if he's saying this is coming out in August or at least next couple of months, then that is part of version 10, which includes some of the games we mentioned before, infotainment features, and he added improved highway autopilot, which, as Trevor mentioned, was a big part of version 9 last year, better traffic light and stop sign recognition, and smart summon, which we've all been waiting for, which is a really, really awesome thing. And it will not include emoji support just yet, but it will have text messaging feature built into it. So if you want to do a voice command in your car and actually text somebody, that is something that will be part of version 10. So again, we don't know when that's coming, but that will roll out with it on the initial package. Emoji support will come later.
I think the texting thing is something that people have been asking for so long.
Oh, yeah.
It's huge.
Especially since like Florida, and as of July 1st here in Florida, it is now illegal to text and drive. You actually can get cited for doing that. So it's having
it's
as
been
a feature,
illegal here for a better part of a year now.
Right. So
my wife has what is it? Android Auto or CarPlay in her car, and the texting on it is fantastic. So
yeah.
If it's anything close to that, it's going to be great.
So that's fantastic. Now, somebody did ask about indoor spaces with GPS. So the version 10 update may not, they're going to try to, but they may not include the inertial wheel GPS for indoor spaces upon the deployment of V10. If that were to be the case, it would actually be a point release. And I give an example like 2019.24.4. That's a point release. Now, regarding automatic lane change alerts, somebody had said, listen, my kids are in the car.
Eric, before we go any further with that, I think we need to take just 2 seconds and just talk about what he means by inertial wheel GPS.
Go right ahead.
And, okay, because enhanced summon is something that requires GPS coordinates in order to function in outdoor spaces. Someone on Twitter was asking Elon, look, what if we use this inside of a parking garage? We don't get necessarily reception in there. Elon said we will be able to do inertial wheel measurements as the car travels into the parking garage to be able to record those movements so that they can replay them for that kind of thing. So that's what he's talking about. So the ability to use smart summon may not be initially included in V10. It will be coming later in a point release. So if you're asking what that is and why you may not be able to use it in a parking garage where you don't get signal, that's what he's talking about. Carry on.
All right, thank you. So somebody had asked him about automatic lane change alerts with Navigate on Autopilot or NOA, because he's like, hey, I got kids in the car. I don't want the thing constantly making alerts, tones, beeps, and so forth. So there was a mention of this thing called Joe Mode, J-O-E, Joe Mode. Tesla hopes to add that into version 10. The default setting for Joe Mode would be normal volume for the alerts, but when you activate it, it would actually reduce the volume and the number of alerts by half. So that's something that, again, we don't have much description about what that really is, but at least for those who do want to have a kind of a more silent experience with NOA and the alerts on, that's going to be forthcoming. Now, the big question is, will version 10 be released in August? Because again, we're now in August and we're approaching the 1 year mark for when version 9 was rolled out last year. It came out at the very end of August, massive rollout in September. According to Elon, it all depends on the success of the firmware release with early access owners. Now, if everything goes well, which we hope it does, then Tesla hopes to deploy a wide release of version 10 by the end of this month. Somebody then said, well, when you say August, you really mean September, right? And of course, Elon responded with, haha, probably true, and then let out a big sigh. So again, the idea that it's actually this close to the release is kind of really a positive announcement that happened over the weekend. So if it doesn't happen the next, say, 3 to 4 weeks, it's fine. We're close to it. It could very well come on the anniversary of version 9, which, if we're in that 10 to 12-month window, is not a terrible thing. Continuing on here. Go ahead.
Sorry, I personally, and I don't mean to interrupt again here, but
yes, you do.
I really believe this enhanced summon is such a big feature, and of course, it is one of the first things for the new FSD, not the old one, because it was still an enhanced autopilot on the roadmap as far as that's concerned. I think it's such a big deal. I think that's why they've been delaying a little bit. Not delaying purposely, but just saying like, okay, what if we roll this into version 10 and just make one big splash? I think that's kind of what might be transpiring here a little bit. So, yeah. All right.
So a few more things here. Now, this relates to full self-driving. There were some questions about full self-driving and some of the updates with traffic lights and stop signs. So I kind of alluded to that a little while ago. They want to ensure that the firmware for FSD can actually properly recognize and read all street signs. So the FSD team is currently focusing on traffic lights and stop signs, most of which, according to Elon, are actually very easy to recognize and then respond. But he did allude to the idea that it's actually quite difficult to recognize and respond to the millions of different kinds of corners and intersections across the globe. So if you're coming to like a four-way stop or a simple traffic intersection, the car can respond to that. It's unique things like cul-de-sacs and some other weird signage that they're trying to work through. So we may see improvements in point releases.
Maximum speed 9.5 miles per hour.
That's pretty precise, right? So I was actually kind of surprised as there wasn't a whole lot of expansion beyond this. I mean, there's been a lot of conversation on Twitter about the Tesla pickup truck on and on again. But there really wasn't much beyond this mention on Saturday, which is that they are close to unveiling the truck. The team's really looking at the final details. As he said, that's where all the magic is, the final details. He at least suggested that the debut of the truck may be in 2 to 3 months. Now, there were some people like our friend Michael Bodner at Tesla Tunity. It's like, hey, can we get more of an advance notice so we can kind of make plans to get there? Kind of fell silent. There was crickets after that tweet. We love you, Michael. But yeah, that's at least we're looking at. And then if it is true, if it is 2 to 3 months, that may happen before the end of Q4. So something to keep in mind as we're moving forward. Now, a cool thing was mentioned was about the Tesla mobile app for iOS and for Android devices. Owners can now schedule service appointments in under a minute with the updated app. The system will automatically select either mobile tech or service center, depending upon what your reporting issue is. And owners can actually type in prefer mobile for now into the comments box. And that will at least indicate that you're looking for a mobile service tech to come to your location. Eventually, as the updates get improved, there will be a checkbox that you can actually make that a permanent setting, that you prefer a mobile tech to be coming to your location first before maybe having to go to a service center. Related to the mobile app, and this is kind of the last thing here I want to get into, is that vehicle alerts seen on your display, could be TPMS alerts or any other kind of issue with your cameras or whatever. If those alerts show up on your display, they would also show up on your device, your Android phone or your iOS phone. You can actually then enable single-touch service requests for that alert from either the car's display or the mobile app, and basically, in a matter of seconds, get an appointment scheduled for that specific alert. So that's all coming down the pipeline. That's all the news that broke on Saturday. I'm done for now. I'm going to take a nap. You guys can have your comments about all of that.
Thank you for doing that, Eric. That was tremendous on your behalf.
Thank you very much.
Bravo, sir. Bravo.
And use my referral code. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes. I saw you managed to slip that in there. I mean, that's the way to do it, buddy.
A little bit, a little bit. I've had a new referral lately, so my thanks to those of you who are using our referrals. We appreciate it because, again, we're doing it for you so you can guys get your 1,000 supercharging miles.
That's right. Pay it forward, folks.
Yeah.
Probably worth mentioning one more tweet that happened. It relates to dog mode, of course, because someone hopped on Twitter and says, hey, it's hot as hell here in Seattle. Today I use dog mode. And let me bring up the tweet here so y'all can read it here. And luckily, he says, I kept the app open. To my horror, the car was 85 degrees and climbing. And so the dog mode only works if it's an auto. If you manually set the fan and leave the AC, it turns off. Elon responded simply, fixing. So should be seeing that in a small point released as soon as possible, I hope. But by the way, I should mention, I just got word that 2019.28.1 is starting a small phase-out rollout. This is the one that includes the new chess game and a couple other small improvements and stuff. So start looking for that in the next week or so and into wide release. So excellent news. I mean, gosh, I truly believe, based on everything that he said, I know it's so much to absorb here, but I do believe that we're looking at version 10 real soon. I think all this stuff is going to be rolled in as much as humanly possible, of course, based on that. Enhanced summon, man, I mean, there's so many people who have been looking forward to this thing. I hope it's not a letdown because, all this anticipation's been pent up.
I can't think they delayed it a year. Then it's not going to work. I think the whole point is they're just really hanging on to make it good. I mean, you got to think there's so much development time that's got into it. I mean, what are we on the 6th? Yes, it's just around the corner. I mean, I got to think by now it's they've got it working nicely.
I think if it's going to look, we can't overemphasize this. What they're working on doesn't work without some form of FSD. This is part and parcel to FSD. This is kind of like the first step. And they got to make it right. They got to make it safe because let me tell you, there are going to be accidents. I mean, statistics basically dictate so. people are going to get hurt. There are going to be bumps and fender benders in the parking lots and stuff. So if they can mitigate that by delaying it or spending extra time on it, it's all the better. But don't fool yourself. There are going to be some mishaps with this technology. And of course, along with that, all the negativity in the press that's going to go along with this. So just be prepared. Just saying that there's going to be a lot of digital ink spilt over this, both positive and negative. So just keep that in mind. Try and set your expectations accordingly. And if it's great, it's great. If it's not, well, we have some work to do on that part. All right, moving along. We got a lot to talk about. Model 3. Model 3 has some incredibly resilient batteries. Now, this article comes courtesy of our friends at Teslarati there, Simon Alvarez. Basically wrote that a high-speed accident involving a Model 3 crashing into a pole recently provided an impressive look at the fire-resistant capabilities of Tesla's batteries. Basically, somebody ran into a pole. It shoved the front... it was an all-wheel drive car, by the way. And it shoved the motor into partially into the battery, which is basically up against the firewall, and tore a big hole in the battery. And lo and behold, it didn't melt. It didn't catch on fire. Nothing happened. Very impressive. I mean, and I put out a tweet today, other than maybe a little bit of smoldering from what was that car that fell down into the children's playground, right? There were some reports of that, maybe not deliberately catching on fire, a big conflagration that we've seen in the past, but I'm not aware of any Model 3's battery pack that's gone up in complete flames.
No, there's been zero. Earl, our friend,
28 days later. Oh yeah,
did a fantastic chart today where it was basically, okay, here's the stats on Model 3 fires, and it's a blank Excel sheet.
Exactly. Fantastic. Yeah, I think it's really impressive to see this many cars built and not a single battery fire yet.
Yeah, no, it's a great sign.
It just really shows that they've done their homework. I don't know what kind of magic sauce or what they've changed in this battery pack. Because, we've seen a number of battery fires, of course, with the S and the X, which feature a different cell format, different size, but the layout is largely the same. It's just there's something else that's going on in here, and I haven't laid my hands on one of these things to be able to tell you exactly what's going on in terms of differences. But again, I'll just reiterate, we have not seen any battery fires on the Model 3. It's truly incredible. I don't know what they're doing, but
I'm also of the mindset. If you, and this really goes for any electric vehicle, if you are expecting that at some point one might happen, that's where the mindset needs to change. Because the reality is that they're trying to make these cars the safest cars on the road. And we know through the battery of tests, the battery of tests that have been performed on these vehicles, the S, X, and 3 are the safest cars anywhere on the earth, period. And the Model 3 beats the S and X, by a small margin. So it is not surprising that the way these cars have been designed and the way they've been thoroughly tested by a number of agencies, and we'll get to this a little bit later on in the show, but through all the different tests that have been performed, we've never heard of in their crash tests by various agencies of there having been a fire or significant issues. We know the cars are pretty resilient when it comes to damage through poles and other vehicles and solid structures and everything. I mean, it's just not surprising. So my perception is don't think that, oh, hey, it's shocking there hasn't been one. It's like, hey, how about that? See, people, the chance of you having a car fire in a Model 3 is right now 0. And that should be the headline. Not that we're surprised there isn't one. It's, well, we should expect there's none. And Tesla's done their damn due diligence to make sure that there isn't one. And with the number of cars on the road, it's proof positive. They've finally figured it out. The proof is in the pudding. There are 0 fires in these cars.
Yeah, I would agree. Safety on these cars is more than just the crash rating. It's encompassed the whole thing, especially with the battery pack. We're talking about a lot of chemical energy here. We've seen battery fires. They're quite violent when they do happen. So they've taken it. They've obviously taken it to heart.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you want a vivid image of how much energy there is in a pack, we had, it was just last week, a Hyundai Kona right here in the Montreal area exploded.
Saw that.
Right.
Roof and garage door off the structure. I mean, that's a lot of energy. So yeah, don't be fooled into thinking, well, it's a battery, it's not going to go up like a tank of gasoline. It can. I mean, it has the same level of stored energy. It just, normally gets released in a more gentle fashion, but not always.
Yeah. All right. Well, congratulations to everybody at Tesla for doing such an incredible job on the safety factors of the batteries. Makes me feel really good. All right, moving along. Speaking of safety, well, our good friends in Australia have some rejoicing to be happening because the Tesla Model 3 was awarded a 5-star safety rating by the Australian New Car Assessment Program, also known as ANCAP. And they put out this webpage. Again, links to all of the topics we're talking about will be in the podcast description. They have a wonderful technical report that you can download here in a PDF. So if I just bring it up here on the screen, you'll be able to see it here. So it scored 96% in adult occupant protection, 87% in child occupant protection, 74% in vulnerable road user protection, 94% in safety assist. So it's a wonderful report. I highly encourage you to go and take a look at it. Again, just shows Model 3 is absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, the safest car you can buy anywhere in the world. 5-star in Australia, New Zealand, Europe, and of course in North America. So judging by that things, I mean, Tesla's done a wonderful thing. So if there's any doubt in anyone's mind that the number one thing on a Tesla whiteboard when they design a car is safety. So Model 3 has 5 stars. Model Y will get 5 stars. Anything else that Tesla comes out, they're not satisfied until they get 5 stars on all the cars.
Safety is paramount with Tesla.
Absolutely. So there's no doubt in my mind that they will work extra hard. And if a car never got 5 stars, even in one category, you can bet that Tesla would send the engineers back and say, do it over again. So, yeah, you want a safe car for you and your family. You can't do anything better. By the way, you can't go without mentioning second safest car in the world, Tesla Model S. Third safest car in the world, Tesla Model X. So there you go.
Hoorah!
Hoorah! Hoorah! All right, moving on. Sales in the European market are down. Europe's auto sales are down 8% in the first half of 2019. Guess where Tesla is? Sales have tripled for Tesla. Now, chalk this up maybe a little bit to some pent-up demand for the car. There's a little bit of that. But it just goes to show that these cars are doing exceptionally well. So again, this article comes courtesy of Teslarati by Dasha Ferris, who wrote. So the top 5 market share winners in Europe is, let's see here, what else have they got here? What is this? Dacia? Tesla? Citroen? A seat? I don't know what that is. Why do they have different car names in Europe? Oh, goodness. But anyways, Tesla's doing exceptionally well over there. Of course, gasoline prices factor into this a lot because gasoline's super expensive in Europe compared to North America. Notably, diesel car registrations fell 21% in June over the prior month, with demand for electric vehicles increased 20%. Although the new car market share for EVs in Europe is only 7.5% right now, the results coming in each month are promising every year over year. Alternative fuel vehicles increased their sales over 2018 nearly 2%, while gasoline vehicles only increased 3%. Diesel declined 5%. Battery electric vehicles increased 104% over last year. So Tesla's doing exceptionally well. Any thoughts on this, guys?
Well, one thing that I wanted to point out in the story that you hadn't mentioned yet was that the Model 3 was the best-selling premium sedan in the month of June in the European market. So, it's part of those figures of Tesla sort of tripling their sales in the first 6 months of the year. It's just all the more impressive that when we think of Europe, when we think about electric cars, we kind of default to Norway first. But with the introduction of the right-hand drive cars that are coming out there, when we started seeing deliveries of the freight truck, all the freighters bringing all the cars overseas, it's astounding to see that this has been the trend, and it's just going to continue. I think we're going to see these records kind of happen every quarter, every 6 months, every year, especially now that Gigafactory 3 is going to come online very soon, which how fast is that happening? Holy cow. Australia is going to start getting deliveries very soon. So we're going to start seeing these figures start to be more commonplace outside of North America, which is a great, great thing for the planet, for Tesla, for electric vehicle owners, and for families alike.
FineLab has a line of protective coatings that were engineered to protect your Tesla's paint, leather, carpet, plastic, and wheels, effectively blocking all those UV rays and environmental factors before they ever get to ruin your brand new baby. FineLab offers a complete line of car care products and ceramic coatings for both the do-it-yourselfer and professional detailers. Did we mention we also have the world's first self-healing coating? Check us out at finelab.com, that's spelled F-E-Y-N-L-A-B, to see the science behind the self-healing. Check out our product catalog and click Contact Us for a free quote from a certified installer in your area. FineLab and Tesla, we were meant for each other. Well, moving along, we got some more news. The EV Cannonball record has been broken. You know what the old saying goes, right? Records are meant to be broken. Well, it's been broken again. The last record holder was none other than Alex Roy of The Drive, who basically took a Model 3 across country. And, well, it just been broken again here by a trio of people that took delivery of their car. So, yeah, actually, it was Dan Zarilla that who did the Cannonball Run with Alex Roy. They did theirs in 50 hours and 16 minutes. Which is just crazy. What did they do here? Where's the number? I'm looking for the number and I'm lost. Okay, so
actually, there were two runs back to back, Trev. Within 24 hours, the record was broken twice, which is hard to imagine.
Right,
but that's the first one. The first break was. I think the story is hilarious. I mean, it sounds like a National Lampoon. Because yes, it was the Thompson family, Lars, Betty, and their daughter Robin Thompson, who were Swiss visiting the US, decided literally at the last minute on a lark to rent a Model 3 and go tearing across the country to set the record. How cool is that for a family vacation? I want to be in that family. I want them to top. That's my kind of family. So yeah, so they just rent a Model 3, hop in the car, and just cannonball it across.
Hey, look, we're in West Virginia. Oh, there goes West Virginia.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice knowing you.
That's how I love seeing the country. So, they managed to knock out 48 hours and 10 minutes, which is amazing. I mean, they took 2 hours off of Alex Roy's time. And if for those of you who don't know Alex Roy, first of all, he's an exceptional journalist, covers Tesla supremely well. I think he's one of the clearest seeing journalists on the entire subject.
He loves to call people out when they say self-driving cars. Man, does he have a bugaboo about that.
He's very, very technically accurate and very precise. Yeah. But his main claim to fame is he's probably one of the most storied coast-to-coast cannonball drivers in history. He's done this run so many times. He has the second fastest run, if memory serves, or thereabouts, in a gasoline car at just a hair over 30 hours. So, and I mean, he on his record run, he spent, I think, the better part of a year planning it. That's how much work went into it. And I'm sure with Dan Zarilla, he did quite a bit of homework to get it down to 50 hours. So the Thompson family shows up, rents one, hops in it, heads for the hills, and managed to knock almost another 2 hours off that, which is amazing. And stranger still, not even a day later, you have this other attempt that happens. I'm just pulling up the gentleman's names now.
Kyle Connor.
Kyle Connor, that's right, and his co-driver. I'm just looking for
Matthew Davis.
Thank you, Trevor. That's them. So they went a little bit further. They managed to drop the car. It looks like it has at least a 2-inch set of drop springs on it, which obviously helps the aerodynamics, gives the car a little bit of range. So they went all out and they managed to knock it down to 45 hours.
45 hours and 16 minutes.
45 hours, 16 minutes in an EV, coast to coast, 2,800 miles. Do the math. That's incredible. So my first observation is I have to think the upgrade on the V2 chargers now that they can get 150 kilowatts was very helpful in both these attempts.
Absolutely.
Because I've noticed quite a dramatic difference. It doesn't sound like much. Okay, you're going from 120 to 150, but holy cow, for the first 10, 15 minutes of charge, does that ever knock the time off? It really, really adds up. So when you're charging, I think they had to stop 19 times in total. So you take 10 minutes off each one of those, do the math. You're knocking off a serious chunk of time. So that's definitely helpful. And my immediate reaction was like, my God, imagine what's going to happen when we have V3 charging.
I mean,
coast to coast. You're like a 40-hour run is within sight.
That should be able to take it down to less than 40 hours.
I got to sit down and work out the math on it, but if it isn't under 40, it's going to be close. And now you're down to times that, gas cars had a hard time doing for a long time, So I just thought this was such a cool story. But yes, hats off to the Thompson family. You people rock. That's my kind of vacation.
They need to do another National Lampoons with this time with an EV instead of the family truckster.
Just imagine having a record. You're like, man, we nailed it. Wait, what happened? We lost it already?
You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean,
Crazy.
imagine just kind of like going home, like, hey,
the only thing that really kind of freaks me out about this is the speed that they're traveling at to do that. Like, I've traveled from San Francisco, California to here in South Florida in 3 days' time with a Honda Fit. And I was like by myself with a car full of crap and just kind of hauling out. And it took me 3 days, obeying speed limits and that sort of thing. But still, like, that's, to me, like, that's impressive. When I hear 40 some odd hours to cross the country, I'm like, goodness, that's incredible. And the idea, like, I mean, I remember when you were down here for our February trip to Kennedy Space Center, and I think you were faster going back than you were coming down. Even like I've done Google Map links, like just from here to Toronto, for example. I'm like, all right, it's like 30 some odd hours, give or take, depending upon the route. And I'm like, and Ian can be like, I got home in 20 hours. I'm pretty good. I'll see you guys later. I'm going to bed. Like, I don't understand. So
I'll be curious to see what happens when we do it again in February to see how much faster it is this time around.
Especially with the V3, hopefully there'll be more stations up. Yeah,
dying to do it, frothing, chomping at the bit.
Hey man, we're not that far away. We're in August now. I mean, February is only 6 months away.
We are getting there. All right, time to move on. Tesla announced a huge product, and when I say huge, I mean huge. Now, Tesla just announced this week a new massive energy storage system called the Megapack. Megapack. Again, links to all this stuff will be on the website. You can check it out. So anyways, they're claiming 3 megawatt maximum energy capacity. It's 10 times faster installation. Megawatt hours, yes. Thank you very much. 10 times faster installation. 1 gigawatt hour plus of scale projects enabled so far. So anyways, they basically say that they're going to be able to deploy these systems now that they've... now, I wonder, do we remember how big the installation was in
Australia?
Australia. How big was that one again?
I don't remember the number.
I know it was big.
But this is something that I don't want to understate, and I want to make sure that I say this very clearly.
Okay.
I think, other than their vehicles, this is the second biggest and most important thing Tesla's doing, which is power, which is energy storage solutions. Because as the world begins to transition into renewable resources, specifically with solar and wind solutions, it's imperative that the energy that's being created from those resources is able to be stored some way. So Tesla, over the years now, has been doing all these small-scale projects. And I really mean small-scale. But even like after Hurricane Maria devastated Puerto Rico last year, Tesla shortly thereafter had temporary power stations so that part of the island can actually have its power restored. And the fact that they could set it up that quickly is kind of indicative of just how valuable these systems are. So these kinds of projects that they're doing, while again they're small scale in the grand sense, they're really vital towards their mission of sustainable energy solutions. So again, I think the cars has been a big part of that, but this is the next thing. I mean, the solar roof is really awesome and Powerwall is great, but when you can transition a community, when you can transition cities, larger power grids into these kinds of energy solutions, it's something that we just cannot undervalue. And I think it's really the big thing that Tesla's going to do, other than their automotive solution.
So just a little bit of a description of the power pack here. So every power pack arrives pre-assembled, pre-tested in one enclosure from our Gigafactory, including the battery modules, bidirectional inverters, a thermal management system, an AC main breaker and controls. No assembly is required. All you do is connect the Megapack's AC output to your site's wiring. They have some really great pictures here. It looks like the units are deliverable on the back of a semi-truck. Probably looks like anywhere from a 20 to a 40-foot container. It's hard to determine here from the pictures, but you pair this with some solar or some wind energy, and you get a really neat solution. Now, I've been told, and I have yet to find it, but my understanding is that we have a previous system installed here by our local power company. It's around 3 megawatts as well, but it's not this new system. It's my understanding is it's the older system. So this is a big deal because the previous systems took up to 90 days to install because they got to put the concrete footings and stuff. This is a big deal here because they can just deliver it on a flatbed.
It's a plug and play system basically.
Yep. Yeah. There is another thing, too. Of course, obviously, the Megapacks come with software update capabilities, but there's one thing here, and it's not really listed all that much in here, but they have something called Auto Bidder, which is part of their AI system, that can actually sell the electricity smart and intelligently into the network. So using some AI and stuff, so they can get some of the best deals. So I think there's some value propositions, obviously, for those who are generating energy from this, not only storing it but putting it into the grid and being able to resell it too.
Just to come back on your point, Trev, I've got the information in front of me. So
please do.
The storage unit in Australia is called the Hornsdale Power Reserve.
Yep.
And it has a total capacity of 129 megawatt hours. It has a discharge capability of 100 megawatts. So
Nice.
that thing can put power back into the grid at 100 megawatts, like straight power.
It's getting hot in here to just me. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Our understanding is that it's paid for itself.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's done exceptionally well down there. So, anyways,
More power.
congratulations for Tesla on this thing. That's looking really good. And who knows what else kind of stuff they got up their sleeve for other things too. I wonder how they're going to parlay with this because obviously, there's a lot of people out there still waiting on Powerwalls, which is, the home version of this too. Mm-hmm. I don't know what's going on. I mean, we're getting a lot of reports now that Tesla Solar has all of a sudden just kicked into action. Lots of talks on Tweet and Reddit and on the forum, of course, that people placing orders for solar systems and Tesla saying, well, we can install it the next day or the day after, provided all the permits are met. So, it looks like they're finally, the Tesla solar part of it anyways is starting to get some love. Unfortunately, it's still not available in Canada, unfortunately. So, it is what it is. All right, moving along. We don't talk about the forum all that much, but there's lots of activity on there, including, someone found something really interesting here. Now, there's been a thread on the forum that's been going on for some time now about people wanting to upgrade the sound system in their SR Plus, Standard Range Plus car, because obviously it doesn't come with a full immersive sound system. There's some tweeters missing, obviously the subwoofer is missing. And lo and behold, someone on the forum here, and I'll bring up the website here, and you can see it yourself here. His name is Mod Mike. He says, I've been watching the SR Plus stereo system upgrade thread for some time since I got my car, and I thought, you know what, instead of buying these aftermarket subwoofers, why don't I just go take a look? He scoured on eBay and assumed that the part was pretty expensive because that's what people are asking for. And he says it occurred to him to call Tesla and see how much it was. Well, he couldn't believe the price is only $250, $300 Canadian. So that's $100 to $150 less than what some eBayers are wanting. So it turns out you can actually order this part from Tesla. Now, the wiring system, you're still going to have to do. I'll put a link into the video in the podcast description. Sorry about that, a little tongue-tied. Where you can follow along on this, where the people have been actually going through, finding the wiring and actually tapping into it with some third-party Class D amplifiers and stuff to make all this stuff work. But it looks like you can actually put a subwoofer in this that's purpose-built for the car, obviously, and get a really good sound out of this. Now, you guys are quite fortunate because you have a long-range Model 3, you have a performance Model 3, of course, and the sound system comes, obviously, with the immersive sound system. And if you've never heard it, by the way, folks, you need to get out there and listen to it because it is truly incredible. Tesla's done a really great job on that. So for those of you who are considering a sound system upgrade, it's a little more difficult in these cars, mainly because it's a lot of digital stuff going on. And again, the people that are talking about this in the thread are still claiming, of course, it's still software locked, and of course, without access to that, you can't turn on all of the, even though some of the wiring is actually there, you can't actually enable some of that stuff. So they're having to tap into existing tweeters that are actually active in the car in order to pull a signal, so on and so forth. But anyways, for those of you who are interested, definitely check it out. Any thoughts on this before we move on to?
Well, I want to give a shout out to the original member who posted this Plur.
Yes.
On the forum. That was a beautiful write-up.
Yeah, I have it right here. I'll bring it up. Keep talking.
Yeah, a great description on how to go about it step by step. So it's a great starting point for anybody who wants to do the work to try and bring the car up to the same sound level as a premium car. And then, of course, Mod Mike is my good close friend Michael Triffin. So he's the one that.
Oh, it is Mike.
Yeah, it is. That's our Mike, and he's the one that did the homework and found out that you can actually buy the entire subwoofer assembly for less than it cost me for that piece of plastic trim under my rocker panel. I don't understand Tesla pricing, but amen to all you who want the sub. You win because that's a great price for it. So to get the factory original part.
Yeah, so want to say thank you for all the guys on the forum who does such incredible write-ups of these little trials and tribulations that go with the cars. It's a great resource of information. Don't just go onto Twitter and look for stuff. You got to go to a forum because that's where all the juicy stuff is. And guess what? We have the best forum for Model 3 stuff. So check that out. Again, links to everything we talk about will be in the podcast description, so you guys can check it out. Now, before we get on to viewer listener questions, Ian, you had some stuff to talk about HBWC, or the old, what we used to call the HBWC, high power wall connector. It's really the Tesla wall connector now. So what did you want to say about that?
Yeah, just quickly. We've talked about it on the show previously. I so love the wall connectors because they're reasonably priced and they're intelligent. So if you have several of them in your house or your place of work, you can attach them together. They can all run off one circuit. They can load share. And as a result, because they're well priced, I highly recommend them to owners who have other types of EVs, because you can buy something called a TeslaTap, and hopefully Trev will be good enough to put the link to their site on here. And they make a beautifully crafted adapter, so you can convert the Tesla plug to a standard J1772 socket, and you can plug it into any other kind of EV, and it'll still load share with your Tesla. If you have a Tesla and some other EV, that's what I have at home, and it works beautifully. So I did run into a little bit of a problem with it recently, where we're not sure if it was corrosion in the connector or a little bit of water getting, but it kept tripping the fault circuit on it. And when I was cleaning it and resetting it, it's like it wouldn't come back on immediately. It kept tripping the fault circuit. So I called them up. And it's so nice in this day and age to call any kind of company, and like the person who owns the company, who is right next to them, answers the phone and has every conceivable answer, including 10 things that you never even heard of. And what I learned during the course of the call is when you trip the fault circuit in the wall connector, there's, believe it or not, something as precise as a 26.5 second delay before it fully resets. So even if the light comes back green, you have to wait about 30 seconds to make sure that the thing is fully really initiated. So that's the problem I was having, and as I wasn't being patient enough so it kept triggering the fault. Here's the cool thing though. The reason you have to wait so long is version 2 of this wall connector is intelligent. And this chimes into something that Eric, my mobile service tech, told me the week before. He says, did you know that your wall connector can be updated through the car? They can actually do a firmware update to the wall connector itself, because
they do that to the Chatham adapter.
Yeah, well, this is it. Everything now there's communication wires integrated now into the charging circuit. So if in certain updates, they can actually send the signal through, and that'll actually update the wall connector itself. So I thought that was pretty cool. Now, apparently to date, it hasn't happened. But
they have the ability.
They have the ability to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So the way this is done is there's a dip switch in the unit. If you look at the schematic, or if anybody's familiar with the installation of these, there's a little rotary dial that sets the current limit on the unit, and you also have 2 little dip switches. Now the first one is to configure whether you have a 3-phase or a single-phase connection, if memory serves, on your 240-volt circuit. But the second dip switch, which I had no idea what it does because it doesn't talk about it in the instruction manual, it just says leave it in the up position. You know what that does? That's the communication link for the unit. So it's in the up position, it's interrogating the car to figure out if it's a Tesla, and if it's a Tesla, it'll talk to it and it'll look for this information. However, if you switch that into the down position, what it does is it bypasses this extra communication step. So now it'll communicate instantly with your car. So there's no delay in the hookup. Basically, you can plug it into any EV now, and it's not going to sit around and send it the Tesla ping and wait for it to talk back. It's just going to go, okay, we're connected, we're safe, poof, and it starts charging. So if any of you are using the TeslaTap and you're experiencing these regular faults, put your on your connector, use that second dip switch, put it in the down position, and apparently this rectifies. I'm going to try it on mine, and I'll let you guys know how it goes.
Appreciate it. Very cool information. Well, you find out something new every day, right? How many people do you think ran into that?
I have no idea, but I was just, and this was a much longer conversation. I mean, David at TeslaTap's a super cool guy. So anybody, if you have questions about this unit, I encourage you to call them up. Really, really helpful people, and they make a beautiful product.
Awesome. Great. Well, I think it's time for us to jump in and answer viewer and listener questions. Now, again, if you're new to the podcast, welcome. If you don't know where we get these questions, we usually ask them the day of or the day before we do the podcast on Twitter. We have a Google form that you can fill out, and you can just submit any question you would like, and if we think it's worthy, we'll answer it. No, I'm just kidding. We do our best to answer just about every question that we get.
Like Wayne and Garth, we are not worthy.
We're not worthy. All right, so having said that, so the first question comes from Sean, and this one is a question directly for Ian. He says, I've read posts stating that the single 10mm set bolt on each wheel hub of the Model 3 must remain in place on the car. Others suggest it's just used to set the hub in place place and can be removed or discarded. What say you? When using a spare wheel for tire rotations, that little bolt is a pain in the butt to remove. Can I just chuck it in the trash?
Yes, absolutely, Sean, you can. I left mine on because I was a little bit paranoid, but I mean, there's really no reason for it. You see this quite commonly on a lot of cars. It can be a set screw which is recessed into the rotor itself, which doesn't interfere with the wheel installation. It's a nicer solution, but a lot of manufacturers don't really care. They'll use a protruding, typical standard hexagonal bolt to hold the rotor in place. The only reason it's there is when the car goes down the production line, they put the rotors on. Normally, the only thing holding the rotor in place is your wheel. So prior to the wheels being installed, the rotors are just kind of wobbling there in space. So to make sure they don't move, they put that little set screw or set bolt in place, and that holds them on the line. And when the wheel goes on, that's what's really clamping the rotor into its final position. So yes, once the brake calipers and pads are sitting there, well, you can take that off and you still can't remove the rotor because now the caliper is holding it in place. So there's no problem removing those things and discarding them. However, there's one thing I picked up in your question was that you're using a spare tire. And I assume this is because you're doing one corner of the car at a time when you rotate. So in other words, jack up one corner, take the wheel off, put a spare wheel on, then go to the front, repeat the process. This is extraordinarily labor intensive. Let me save you the hassle. Jack up the whole side of the car at the same time. On an earlier episode, we talked about this, and I actually showed a screenshot of a video of a Tesla Mobile Ranger who does
actually do it themselves.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, oh my God, I can't lift up the whole car just from one jacking point. I'll twist the frame. No, you cannot twist this car. You can drop it off a building. You're not going to twist the platform on a Model 3. It's built like a bank vault. And
we don't recommend you do that, though. We don't recommend you drop it off a building.
I wouldn't, just saying. But
not Sandy Munro.
No, exactly. So yes, I always recommend using the rear jack point because the rear wheel drive is, good 5% heavier in the rear, and even with the dual motor, which is pretty evenly balanced. So just jack up from the rear, keep jacking until you get both wheels off the ground. You are not going to do 1 ounce of harm. My car's been up and down 1,000 times like that, and it's perfect. It's a great way to do it. So don't bother with the spare tire technique. You're really spending a lot of time, which is not necessary.
And you recommend the hockey puck thing you guys have mentioned on the show before?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want, put that in the description for the show so those who are interested in knowing what it is can check it out.
Yeah, especially if you're going to jack the car completely, it's nice to have the protection of that hockey puck because, you're going to put a little extra strain there. It's nice to make sure that you're not going to damage the area around the jack support area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, well, that's good. Thanks for writing in, Sean. I hope that answers your question. Next question comes from Wayne. He says, I'm just wondering if the box that's normally located on the back of a regular pickup is located on the front of the cab of the Tesla pickup. Seems like a strange idea, but the picture of the front looks like a tailgate to me. This is the picture he's talking about. Now, okay, well, here's the answer, Wayne. Elon has definitely confirmed on Twitter that is indeed the front of the truck. It's a Blade Runner-ish looking thing. We will hopefully see it in a few months. But it's not going to look like your normal pickup truck. I think Tesla's finally decided to pull out all the stops on this particular product and really make it look sci-fi so that people go, what the heck is that thing? Right? So it's deliberate on their part. No, it's definitely the front of the truck. So that light bar that you see going around here, I'll bring it up one more time so y'all can see what I'm talking about.
Such a hard time picturing.
I mention this every week. This is fantastic if you're on the podcast because you have no idea what the hell we're talking about.
I've got to think everybody by now who's a Tesla enthusiast has seen that little stealthy image, though, that was at the model reveal.
Funny enough, we missed it. I had my back to the screen when I was there.
You've seen it eventually. It's not like it's hard to find.
No, exactly. It's
certainly floating out there. Just do a Google search for Tesla pickup truck, and the weirdest image you see, that's the one. Not the Photoshop hack jobs that everybody's going around with. The one that looks like a Blade Runner.
Earl's Photoshop with Norman. And all that. No, please.
Earl has amazing Photoshop skills, right, Earl?
His Photoshop skills are as if you went to college and you were taking like an arts class, and they go, we're going to learn Photoshop, and it's like an intro to Photoshop, and what Earl needs is like an intro to the intro for Photoshop. But it's hilarious because you can tell they're so phony, but it's fun.
Well, that's part of the charm, isn't it?
I know, isn't it? We love you, Earl. We do.
We love you, buddy. All right. Next question comes from Don. He says, would it be possible to split out FSD features? Would love to pay only for auto lane change right now. Standard autopilot lacks it, but it would be really nice to have.
No. It's a clear no. They're not going to do that.
No, no, exactly. Tesla has cemented what they feel is a good product mix right now, which is basically your lane keeping and your traffic-aware cruise control is part of what they call autopilot now, which all the cars get for free. FSD, which basically is this other thing you pay for over and above the car now. That's where all the juicy bits really stick. Once again, we have to remind people that the prices will be going up on FSD about $1,000 on August 16th, so just a couple weeks away from now. So if you're looking at doing that, suggest that you jump in whether you see it or not. Again, some of the features are not going to show up until later. I mean, Tesla just said they have $883 million riding on this thing that they can't realize the profits until they get the stuff going. So there's almost, it's basically $1 billion sitting there in the Tesla coffers that they can't recognize officially until FSD is a reality. So they're working very hard on it. Now, just in case someone else asks, because I see it on Twitter once in a while, I'd like to be able to do it as a subscription service. Again, Elon has confirmed that that's something that they will entertain once the robo-taxi fleet is actually existing and in an operation. So that'll be something that you can look forward to later on. Right now, you got to fork out the money if you want to participate and play in the sandbox. Okay, next question comes from Tony. He says, I ordered a Raven long-range Model S scheduled delivery this Saturday. The mileage being reported on my MPVA is 91 miles. I'm wondering if the odometer actually reads 91 miles, which seems kind of high for test driving prior to delivery. Does it signify there was a possible issue during testing which prompted that amount of miles being placed on the car? I have an answer, but I want to hear it from Ian. What do you think?
Oh, damn it. Okay.
Oh, no. Well, okay, Eric.
No, Ian, please. You already called. I'm just going to sit back and watch.
All right.
Enjoy my fake champagne.
Okay.
I read that one earlier today, and I was kind of like, I don't know. Was this a Ferris Bueller moment where like the two parking attendants went, with the Star Wars music? Da, 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 da. I mean, I'm just picturing all sorts of possibilities. But no, I don't really have a plausible explanation. I would like to hear what you think.
Okay, Eric, you go. I have mine, but Eric,
you go. All right,
so go for it, Eric.
Every car that
Eric knows.
Every car that Tesla sells, they will automatically on the MVPA, which is the Motor Vehicle Purchase Agreement. For those that do know, I love acronyms. Okay, so I know, right? I'm giddy about this. All right, so I'm like, I know stuff like Ian knows wheels. Okay,
yes, he knows.
So
he knows.
if you have an MVPA from Tesla, and the car is considered brand new, it will always have 50 miles marked on the MVPA. And the reason for that is for insurance purposes. When you actually are giving them the VIN and you actually have to record a certain amount of information, like how much mileage is on the car, 50 is actually the minimum. And the reason for that, it allows Tesla a buffer. Yes. So when they have to move the car from the truck in the service center, et cetera, you're basically right. So most people, when they have that 50, when you take delivery, like my car had 7 miles on it. It happens, okay? But again, that's their starting number. Now, why is there 91? Well, here's the thing. We do not know. When Tesla does have vehicles used for test drives or at service centers for loaners, et cetera, those are cars that they own. They're considered new cars because they've never been titled to anybody else other than Tesla. So it is entirely within the realm of possibility that the car that this person has was actually used for test drives. There's a recently new car had been going on for some excursions, and all of a sudden, that's the car they assign to them. Because we know that when there's like end of quarter rushes, they start pulling inventory from everywhere and get those cars in the hands of customers. So it is very likely, again, not knowing all the information, but it's likely that the car was deemed a new car, but was actually used by Tesla for test drive purposes before, or as a service center for, a loaner or something. And then that's the car they sold him. So it has an accurate, so it probably is accurate that it has 91 miles on it. Because that's probably what it was when it was delivered. But again, it's not brand new from the factory, shipped over, and then dropped off. It's probably because it was used for test drives in the past.
Exactly. My answer was a buffer, because they do need to transport the cars. They usually take them around the track. They have to have some mileage on the vehicle.
50 is that baseline number they always use. So if it's 91, it's probably because it's an actual reflection of what's on the car and not what was their buffer of 50.
All right.
I knew
so. There you go. Wonderful question, Tony. Thank you for submitting it. There is your answer. Bottom line, don't worry about it. You're all good.
Yeah.
All right, next question comes from Chuck. He says, any idea when we'll be able to have Tesla profiles associated with phones or keys? Will it be keys or phones or both? So I have a Model X. My key fobs the driver profiles are tied to my key fobs, 2 of them. I get 2 of them. Elon did say that they are going to be able to do that with the key cards fairly soon. This may be part and parcel tied to V10. We don't know yet all of the release notes. He also said that eventually they want to move the driver profiles to the cloud. So eventually, if you get into ride-sharing network, or maybe you get into a loaner or something like that, you'll be able to log into your account, driver profiles follow you, and sets up the whole car. So we don't know the exact answer yet, but I do believe that it's still coming. It is an oft-requested feature that we see quite a bit online. Unless you guys have any other knowledge that I'm not aware of. But that's definitely something that they are looking into, but we just don't know when it's going to happen.
And we had a similar question from this in last week's show, which was recorded on July 25th, not June 25th. Yep. But there was something like that about in terms of having user profiles. And we know there was they sort of released in their online help documentation. So it's kind of released early before it's actually in the software. So maybe, just maybe, that could be one and the same, that could be a thing they're going to do. But for now, we have to wait and see on that part.
Exactly. All right, 2 more questions. This next one comes from Chris. He says, will the V10 software firmware upgrade require a new FSD computer? The answer is no. FSD in the software that runs the firmware in the car, which is the MCU. So in the case of a Model S or X, that's the main center screen. On the Model 3, it only has one computer, which runs the single screen. No, those are separate things altogether. The software updates of Ver10 will work across all of the Tesla fleet that I'm aware of, and will not require any computer upgrades. The upgrade computer thing that you keep hearing on the internet right now is really related to full self-driving. So if you bought FSD either prior to the big brouhaha of March or afterwards, that is when your software your FSD computer will be upgraded to the new hardware 3, or what Tesla calls the full self-driving computer. They're 2 separate things altogether. I know everybody gets the 2 confused all the time. So no, it does not. So it will. Now it's not to say that there aren't functions in there that go to the FSD as part and parcel to the software into the autopilot computer itself. But again, there are several computer systems in the Tesla cars. They talk to one another, but they are not necessarily upgraded all at the same time or interrelated in terms of hardware. They're very, very different animals. So I hope that answers the questions as far as that's concerned. Unless you guys have anything else to throw in, we can answer the last one tonight.
I'm good.
Go for it.
Okay, last question comes from Dave. He says, and again, it's related to autopilot. Says, any insight on when the AP2 or 2.1 cars, actually he means 2.5, will start being upgraded to the FSD hardware? We're just going by what Tesla or Elon had said on Twitter some time ago. They're hoping to be able to do those upgrades sometime later in the 4th quarter of this year. Now, don't be surprised that it may be pushed into the spring again. Again, there's no rush on their part right now because they're still porting the software over to this new computer. So until they get the whole stack really running on this thing and optimized, there's no need to upgrade the computer systems. Yes, cars manufactured since March now have the new FSD computer, but they're not taking advantage of the high speed of any of that stuff yet because they're still running on the same software stack. We don't know when that software stack will be ready, but we're just going by what Elon had said, that if all goes well, we should be able to do that sometime later in the 4th quarter of this year. He also confirmed that mobile technicians will be able to do that FSD computer upgrade in the field, so you won't have to bring a car into Tesla to do that upgrade, because, I mean, can you imagine how many people are bought that now and want these FSD computers? When I did my vinyl dash wrap on my Model X, I took apart part of the dash, and it's super easy to get at that computer. Model 3 I haven't taken apart, so I don't have any opinion on that as far as how that's concerned. I do know that there's a big difference, though. The autopilot computer in my car is a separate shoebox. On the Model 3, it's 2 circuit boards, so the FSD computer and the MCU computer, the one that runs the computer screen on the Model 3, are sandwiched together in a single box, and it's attached to the firewall, so it's behind the glove box. So they have to do some take apart on that. How much, I don't know yet, because I haven't actually looked at that.
I mean, when you take delivery of your performance Model 3, you'll find out.
Yes, well, you know what? There's still a Model X for sale if you guys are interested out there. I'd like to get a performance Model 3. But, hey, I'm not pushing. It's just money I just got to spend anyways, because resale values have plummeted, and it just means more money into the pot. So not keen on spending the money, but if it happens, it happens. So that's it, guys. That's the end of the show. We did it.
All right, goodbye, everybody.
Well, Eric, since you're on the screen, where can people reach you if they want to have a chit-chat with you?
You guys can find me on this interesting social media account called Twitter. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can actually see my handle here in the bottom corner. That's
actually kind of cut off a little bit, but
listen, that's language. So that's just a Canadian conversion on YouTube. So it's under the handle ECFix. That is ECFIX. As Trevor mentioned, the Tweetstorm, all this different stuff I tweeted about Elon over the weekend, that'll be linked on the YouTube channel. So you can find it there, easy access to my Twitter handle. My appreciation to all the new followers, the retweets, all the likes. It's been, again, I don't do it for the love. I do it for the education. So if you guys have any questions on stuff, by all means, tweet at me. And I might be putting up a poll pretty soon because, as Trevor just mentioned, FSD prices are going up pretty soon. Right now, I can get it for $3,000. I'm kind of like, and I've talked about maybe not doing it because, I mean, it's $3,000 for me, which is a lot right now.
A lot of money.
So, like, if I were to do it, I'm gonna have to actually like start a GoFundMe or a Kickstarter campaign in Indiegogo because that's a lot to invest right now. But I mean, it's I got 2 weeks to figure that out. But I might ask my avid listeners and lovers of Twitter to be like, hey, do it or no do it. So
do it.
I know you want me to do it. That's a given. Come on.
All right. Well, you know what the answer is going to be.
Oh, tell them to do it now.
Thank you for that. Ian, it's your turn. Where can people find you if they want to have a chit-chat with you?
All right. Well, Eric Style, you can use the handle here if you're looking on.
It's cut off. Language.
Okay. So Ian Pavelko, at Ian Pavelko on Twitter. You can also find me on the Tesla Owners Online forum under the handle Mad Hungarian. Be sure to ping me. Use the handle if you're looking for me, because I'm
use the @ symbol and type somebody's name.
Yeah, exactly. @mad, and you should see it auto-populate at some point, and you will find me there. And then finally, if you're looking for some fine EV wear, you can go to Teespring at teespring.com and just on their search engine look up Mad Hungarian Evolve Wear, and you will stumble upon the line of Evolve Wear and Weapon of Mass Adoption shirts and mugs and all the rest of it, of which some of the profits go to great EV organizations such as Plug-in America, Electromobility Canada, and l'AVEC, l'Association des véhicules électriques de Québec.
Language. Very well said. I'm going to bug you again. Where's your Model Y shirt?
Oh, God. And somebody asked me on Twitter this week, you know what happened? It's like I don't have a home license for Photoshop anymore, and they yanked it from my desktop at work. So now I'm going to... and it's
curse you, Adobe.
I might have to come to you to finalize the line art.
Hey, Earl, if you're listening to the show, why don't you throw a line here?
There we go. Yeah. No, I don't think I'm in a girl's good place.
I guarantee if Earl did it, he'd find a way to get Norman inside the part of the car.
No, Norman and his referral code.
And his referral code.
The referral code was on the back of the shirt. All kinds of stuff. We love you, buddy.
Oh, I'm so tweeting at him after the show's done. Well, as usual, Ian, thank you very much. Links to all of his stuff, of course, his Teespring will always be in the podcast and the video description. So check out his awesome wear. And lastly, well, I guess it's my turn. If you want to chit-chat with me, you can do it in several different ways. Active on Twitter, the handle's Model 3 Owners. Check out the forum at Model 3 Owners Club. Tesla Owners Tesla Owners Online. My handle on there's Trev P. Lots of stuff going on there. I want to say a big thank you to our three sponsors. That's Evanex, the guys at Fine Lab, and Dulaban Insurance. Those guys do awesome products and stuff. So they really keep the show going. Anyways, that's it for this week, and we will catch you next week. We have some special stuff that's coming down the pike in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and subscribe to the audio podcast or wherever you happen to be. Thank you for all the listener questions, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching and listening, no matter where you happen to be. Good night, everybody.
Bonsoir tout le monde.
Goodbye.